Thank you. Who did that? It was magical, whatever. Welcome. Welcome to the Universalist, Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Monmouth County. My name is Marinelle Mukherjee. My pronouns are she and her. I serve in several ways. I organize soup luncheons, I sing in the choir, and I'm a member of the worship committee, which is what brings me to this place right here at the moment. People in the worship committee oversee these services and oversee and support the services when the minister is not here in the pulpit. And it's really interesting and fun. So if anyone here wants to adventure in that direction, please let me know. We'd love to have more people on our committee. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. Our mission is to create community, transform ourselves, and transform the world. This morning, our speaker is one of our own, Pat Hoppe, and I'm just delighted, and you will be too very soon. Pat Hoppe grew up on an apple farm in southern Indiana. She spent, isn't that the image of Americana? It really is. She spent most of her adult life in beautiful Williamsburg, Virginia, where she taught and she raised her family. She was clearly an exceptional teacher, becoming Teacher of the Year several times and statewide Teacher of the Gifted. Pat is a published poet. She and 4 other teachers formed a singing group, the Tuneful Teachers, and sang at teachers' conferences all over the United States. Pat was an active UU in Williamsburg. She has 2 wonderful children who live in New Jersey and New York. Also today, we have a returning pianist, Brian Gilmore, and we welcome him back. It's so nice to have you again, Brian. Okay, let me get back to here. I draw your attention to the backside of your order of service for announcements and service information for next week. For those on the live stream and for video viewers, the order of service link is available to you in the YouTube service description box. We now have an announcement about our mitten tree from Patricia Brennan. Is
everybody's in the holiday spirit?
Can you come up here to do your announcement, please?
I can do that.
Super, because you have the microphone there.
The Mitten Tree is one of the service projects I brought to this congregation from my previous UU congregation, and I will be in the community room during coffee hour. We have 1 week left to bring any gifts to the guests who are part of the Family Promise Homeless Shelter. So please see me if you're interested in helping support or make the holidays a little brighter for the guests who are in the homeless shelter. We also have the SPCA and then one other family. But you take a mitten off the tree, look on the back, you return one of the gifts that's on the back underneath the tree, or you can buy a gift card from our own UU gift card table. So I appreciate all the support. We've been doing it since '99, and it's fun. So get in the jingle holiday spirit.
Thank you, Patricia. After the service, those gathered in person are welcome to visit with one another. Refreshments will be served in the community room, and people of all ages are welcome to visit with one another. If you are new to us, and I met somebody already named Linda, please welcome her when you have a chance. If you are new to us, please do visit our website, uucmc.org, where you can sign up to get all the latest news of the congregation by email, excuse me. We look forward to getting to know you better. Please put your devices on silent as we enter into worship together. Welcome again to this place of love and hope. Oh, we have one more thing, yes.
Good morning. I just want to remind everyone that we are rerunning the service that we gave after the election on Wednesday at noon right here in this sanctuary. So come on out. We lost the live stream and we lost the backup. So there's been a push to run the service again so that we have it available for ourselves to enjoy and to share with our families and friends. So please come out and join us on Wednesday at noon right here. And you have to come in the front door or this back door because we do have a school that meets during the week. So I hope I see you on Wednesday.
Thank you. I was one of those trying to watch it at home and was so disappointed. I heard it was magnificent and just what we needed after the election. Thank you very much. Okay, we will go to music and then call to worship. Okay, Brian, take it away.
No, call to worship is first.
All right. Okay.
Beautiful. Before I do the call to worship, I'd like to explain a little bit about what you're seeing on the screen. Because this morning, someone asked me if that was me. No. That lovely lady is Edna St Vincent Millay, an American poet who wrote, if you put all her poems together, a book about this thick, because I have it. That's how I know. The poem I'm going to reference today is Renascence, and you won't be hearing all of it because it's 200 lines long, too long for us, but you will be hearing a part of it. So I wanted to make that clear because her name is not up there. Millay, Edna St Vincent Millay. The call to worship this morning is by Mary Oliver. You are familiar with her, I know, and the name of it is Praying. So the name is very important. That's why I'm emphasizing it a little bit. Praying. It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot, or a few small stones. Just pay attention, then patch a few lines together, and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but the doorway into thanks. The doorway into silence in which another voice may speak.
Okay, Patricia, would you come on up, please, for the chalice lighting? There is a light by Eric Williams. Within you, there is a light, the same light as the source, the same radiance that is in all creation. May this small flame be a constant reminder to you of your true nature and your kinship to all beings. Thank you, Patricia. And those of you who are able, please rise as we sing hymn number 134. Our world is one world.
This story is called Harlan and the Bee, and I chose it because I think we all need to pay attention to sharing, maybe especially money. There once was a charming flower garden with fragrant red roses, yellow lilies, and bright purple buds of lavender that swayed in the wind. The buzz of honeybees filled the air. They flew and hovered from blossom to collect pollen. Then they returned to their hive. Each bee had an important job, working hard to keep the hive alive and thriving. Like the other pollinators, Harlan spent his day flying from one flower to another. But the sweet sugar water in the hummingbird feeder was his favorite. It was new to the garden. With no other water source available, it quenched his thirst throughout the day. And he did not want to share it. One blistering summer day, Harlan sipped the refreshing water when he heard a buzz next to him. A bee was drinking from his feeder. Can you imagine?
Excuse me, what do you think you are doing? This is a hummingbird feeder, not a bee feeder,
Harlan said. Bessie, the bee, cute little Bessie, returned to her hive without replying, but soon she was back for more, because she was thirsty.
Who does she think she is?
He tried to shoo her away with his long beak. She quickly dodged his movements and rushed back to the hive. After his next sip, he noticed she had returned for more.
This has got to stop. There won't be any water left if this bee gets it all.
He was ready to duel. She fended him off with her stinger. Then she flew back to the hive with her mouth full of water.
What was she doing with all this water?
He followed her. There was a line of bees fanning their wings on the edge of the hive. He spotted the thief as she darted out and raced back to his water trove.
Hold on.
No time to talk. It's too hot. The babies might die, Bessie said as she slurped a mouthful and buzzed home. He watched her spit the water onto the hive floor for the other bees.
Why are you wasting my water?
Harlan shouted as he trailed behind her. I'm not wasting it, she said.
I saw you spit the water on the floor.
Harlan flew between Bessie and the hummingbird feeder. If I explain, will you please stop blocking me? The temperature inside the hive is hotter than outside. If it gets too hot, the babies might die. The fanning bees vibrate their wings to pull out the hot air and draw the cooler air into the hive. But this dries out the honey inside of the honeycomb. We feed the babies honey mixed with pollen. I leave the water for the worker bees to mix with the honey, to feed the babies and cool the hive. She guzzled more water and flew away.
So she was not being greedy? or wasteful. She was saving lives, thought Harlan.
When she returned, he was ready. He flew behind her. After she emptied her water load, he gently released the water he held in his beak. Then he carefully fanned the hive with his big, big wings. The surrounding bees were shocked. They buzzed and cheered, "Hooray! Buzz, buzz, yay, yay, woo, woo, hooray, hooray!" He smiled and followed the little bee back for more. It felt so good to help. Together, they cooled the hive all day long. At sunset, Bessie stopped and said to Harlan, "Thank you for your help."
You are welcome. I'm sorry I was mean to you. I was wrong to keep all the water for myself. I guess everyone in the garden needs water, don't they? Said Harlan.
Yes, every bird, every bee, every bug, and every blossom needs water. When you share your water, you are a water hero, said Bessie. Then she buzzed away. Harlan liked the sound of that.
See you again tomorrow, he said.
And off he flew, happy to have lended a hand.
Thank you, Pat. Let us sing our children out, please. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround everywhere, everywhere you may go. Now, every week in this congregation, we are provided with an opportunity to practice generosity. This is your invitation to contribute to the well-being of our congregation and to our social justice partners through the good works of organizations which receive half the monies collected each month. Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of December is Interfaith Neighbors. Located in Asbury Park, this organization began in 1996, and with financial help from NJNG, New Jersey Natural Gas, launched a home ownership program focused on the renovation and new construction of, to date, 60 low-income family units in Asbury Park, Neptune, and Long Branch. Interfaith Neighbors also works closely with families in need to provide food, clothing, and hope. For those of you present here in the meeting house, the plates will be passed by the ushers. You may also join this time of generosity via text, send your offering by mail, or charge your contribution online with a memo designating an amount to Interfaith Neighbors. Please give generously.
If you would please open your hymnals, the gray one, to 584. We're going to read this selection by Martin Luther King Jr. And I will read the part in italics, and you will read the portion in standard script. A network of mutuality. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted. Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that. We must, for all human conflict, a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Before, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds which precipitate and perpetuate war. One day, we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal. We must pursue peaceful ends, peaceful means. We shall hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. The Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. When I was 7, the first experience of being present to the world happened in the backyard of a family apple farm in Salem, Indiana. Actually, I just came from there yesterday because my sisters and I had Thanksgiving with all the nieces and nephews. It was good to be back, but it's good to be here, too. In my backyard were 5 long lines for hanging clothes out to dry. They were on my left, and the newly constructed concrete block porch was behind me. Looking into the sky, I had the amazing thought that only I was responsible for my own soul. I was responsible for its destiny, for where I was going, in life and in death. So I prayed as a child for wisdom, that I needed to be in charge of my soul and to care for it as I would care for a newborn. I knew I was in charge of my spirit, my body, and myself. I wanted to be true to that goodness, to live in the light of wisdom and knowledge and love. I also felt a responsibility to the world. I felt like it was my responsibility to save the world. Now, you might think that was unusual for a 7-year-old, but what you don't know is that I went to a fundamentalist Christian church 3 times a week with my parents and heard the sermons about hellfire and brimstone. I was scared to death as a child. Fortunately, that fear didn't affect the rest of my life in a negative way. At 7 was about the time I told my sister I wanted to be a preacher. And she said, "But Pat, you can't be a preacher because women aren't allowed to speak in the church." How many of you knew that? Yeah. She said, "Our congregation at Fort Hill would not tolerate a woman preacher." The church was on a high hill that originally had housed a fort to protect themselves from the Indians, and that was became a church in that fort when a man named Coffin came along in the late 1700s and built a Quaker building. Having inherited my father's capability for joy, I didn't let not being a preacher stand in my way. I decided that I could be a teacher or a nurse or secretary. That was about it, because this was 1950. My dad set a really good example for me, because no matter what the state of our crop, the crop could have been killed in a frost or burnt up in the summer sun, my dad whistled. He was seemingly happy all the time. Now I know from being an adult that that was probably for our benefit, but he was a happy person, whistling all day, never daunted by the weather's capricious whimsy. His favorite expression was, "Every day is Christmas," because our lives were so rich. He had lived through the Depression. He had been a soldier in World War II, so he knew what deprivation and hunger and need was. So from that self-dedication of my spirit when I was 7, that presence, I came upon another even more soul-shattering experience at 15, as I rode down the road in a rickety yellow school bus. The high school was only 3 miles away, but our bus took an hour to get there because we traversed over about 30 miles of backcountry roads to pick up lots and lots of students who went not only to the elementary school, but to the high school and the middle school as well. We froze during the winter because, as some of you remember, girls weren't allowed to wear slacks or anything to cover their legs. So if you were going out to milk the cows, you were allowed to put on jeans, but other than that, you were in a skirt or a dress all the time. Anyhow, at 15, my literature book was open on my lap to a poem new to me called Renascence by Edna St Vincent Millay. And what she wrote opened the world to me in a way that it had not been opened before. The leaves in the fall were showering the bus with yellow gold, and the clouds were sending these rays of beauty down through the leaves. And all of a sudden, that moment of awakening or renaissance happened to me as I read these words. This is from the poem. All I could see from where I stood was 3 long mountains and a wood. I turned and I looked another way and saw 3 islands and a bay. So with my eyes, I traced the line of the horizon, thin and fine, straight around till I was come back to where I'd started from. And all I saw from where I stood was 3 long mountains and a wood. No hurt did I feel, no death that was not mine. Mine each last breath that crying met an answering cry from the compassion that was I. All suffering was mine, and mine its rod. Mine pity like the pity of God. That awful weight of infinity pressed down upon me. My anguished spirit like a bird beating against my lips I heard, yet lay the weight so close about, there was no room for it without. And so beneath the weight lay I, and suffered death, but I could not die. Long I lain thus, craving death, when quietly the earth beneath gave way, and inch by inch, so great at last had grown the crushing weight, into the earth I sank, till I full 6 feet underground did lie, and sank no more. There is no weight can follow here, however great. From off my breast I felt it roll, and as it went, my tortured soul burst forth and fled in such a gust that all about me swirled to dust. Deep in the earth I rested now, cool its hand upon my brow and soft its breast beneath the head of one who is so gladly dead. And all at once and over all, the pitying rain began to fall. I lay and heard each pattering hoof upon my lowly thatched roof, and seemed to love the sound far more than ever I had done before, for rain it hath a friendly sound to one who's 6 feet underground. And scarce the friendly voice or face, a grave is such a lonely place. And all at once the heavy night fell from my eyes, and I could see a drenched and dripping apple tree, a last long line of silver rain, a sky grown clear and blue again. And as I looked, a quickening gust of wind blew up to me and thrust into my face a miracle of orchard breath. And with the smell, I know not how such things can be, I breathed my life back into me. And sure enough, as I read that poem, I felt the death and the resurrection of my soul. And suddenly I saw colors, as if for the first time, because the world opened to me. I could see the golden leaves and the red shimmering trees. It was amazing, amazing. And so at 15, I started writing poetry and giving all those little snips and snaps to my English teacher for extra credit. How many of you did that? Extra credit, extra credit. Yeah. So that transcendence, that joy, that the world became beautiful in a way it had not before, gave my spirit an insight into what could be actually every day. And I carry that with me, and like the ancient mariner, I give it away to souls that I look at during my day who I see might need a smile or a word of encouragement. You know the ancient mariner? Okay, that's for another sermon. At any rate, that presence and that transcendence was given to me by this great American author, Edna St Vincent Millay, one I have adored my whole life and my whole teaching life. The third moment of transcendence I want to share with you came on a frigid, cold morning in 1986 when I woke about 6:30 in the morning. I was a teacher, and so I woke up, got my children ready, and got in the car and went to school. It seemed like every morning of my life, right? How many of you are or have been teachers? Ah, many hands go up, yes. Well, that moment, when I woke up, I had dreamed that I was dead in my dream. And so I woke up and I told my husband, if I die today, just realize that I dreamed about it before it happened, okay? And he said, okay. In the dream, I was lying face down, nude, on a Coast Guard cutter, and the rain was hitting my back and shoulders. As I looked out on this side of me, on my right, I could see a lot of Coast Guard cutters, and they were all, they had cranes attached to them, and they were dipping into the water, and they were bringing up white debris. Shapeless, really. I didn't see any printing on the debris, so I didn't know what it was. As I looked over to my left, my daughter, who at the time was about 12, was huddled in a fetal position on the deck of the Coast Guard cutter next to a door. Jocelyn, my daughter, looked horrified. She looked frightened. And I looked back out at the ocean, and more Coast Guard cutters and cranes plied the waves. So I woke up and told my husband I had dreamed of my death, and in about an hour at 7:30, we got a call from the school that we would not have school that day. We would stay at home, and I would grade papers because I always had a stack about this high. I was an English teacher, and if you were an English teacher, you know that the papers never stop. If you like to teach writing, and I did like to teach writing. So I jumped in the shower and made my coffee and thought that I was headed for a day that really helped me out because I needed to grade. At 11:45, my daughter Jocelyn came running into the shower telling me that the Challenger had exploded. And she was 12, and so she was hysterical. That was the day that the teacher was supposed to teach from space. So American children all over the country were watching as that happened, that tragedy happened. Jossie was inconsolable, and in the days following, we just kind of held each other and thought about what could have been, and thought about death and life, and watched on TV as innumerable Coast Guard cutters plowed through the water with their cranes, bringing up the debris. So I dreamed about that before it happened. And I couldn't understand because in my life I hadn't had premonitory dreams before, and I was eager to find out why this happened to me. So I asked my doctor. I had cancer 30 years ago, and my oncologist was like a father to me. He was a really kind and a listening person, you know? And so I asked him what it meant, as if he could tell me. And he said, well, you're both teachers, and some way or other you tuned in to Krista McAuliffe that morning, and you saw the future. So over the years since 1986, I've thought about it a lot. If I had seen the letters NASA written on that debris, I would have called somebody, I'm sure, because we lived in Gloucester, Virginia, which is right next to Langley and NASA, 20 miles away. And I knew people who worked at NASA because my children's friends' parents worked at NASA. And so I could have called somebody had I seen those letters printed, but there were no letters, no printing, no hint about what was going to happen, and I was unconscious of the Challenger flying that day. Didn't know it was going to happen. Since then, I have a philosophy that I'm going to share with you, not because I think you should have my philosophy. I'm not that arrogant. I just think it's interesting that we all are vibrational, aren't we? Science tells us that. And so my idea is that thought, as we send it out into the universe, maybe strikes a web of consciousness, like Emerson talks about. The oversoul, he talks about. Anyway, this consciousness that I have and that you have perhaps is able to not only send out, but also to receive. That's the way I explain it to myself. And so, as a result, I pray to that consciousness. I send out energy to that consciousness to help me and to help you with every decision we make as we live our lives. That moment that I realized that I had had a premonition, I see as transcendent. I see that as a transcendence that I might not be able to reach every day, but through meditation, I can reach a certain level of transcendence. So we need to develop a vocabulary of the spirit, a vocabulary like transcendence, meditation, right speaking, right work, soul, kindness, care, all those words that you and I speak, but maybe the world that we're in doesn't speak. So give that neighbor a smile. If she looks like she's in a bad mood, give her a word of uplift. Ponder and learn and explore the outer reaches of consciousness. For me, this experience is a purity and a blessing, a thanksgiving, and a universality, because all of us are capable of reaching transcendence. May it be so. Thank you for listening.
That was beautiful, Brian. Thank you. I will consider that our meditation time. Just read briefly the words of Sinai, the 12th century Persian poet. Bring all of yourself to his door. Bring only a part, and you've brought nothing at all. Please, if you're able, stand and we'll sing hymn number 352. As our benediction, I'm going to read an excerpt by David White from his book Consolations, talking about silence. As the busy edge dissolves, we begin to join the conversation through the portal of a present unknowing, a robust vulnerability, revealing in the way we listen, a different ear, a more perceptive eye, an imagination refusing to come too early to a conclusion, and belonging to a different person than the one who first entered the quiet. I want to thank you and invite you to remain seated as we enjoy the postlude.